All right. So to close things down here, it is kind of the big news that kind of took the hockey world by storm when it happened. Stan Bowman is back in the NHL. He is the new general manager of the Edmonton Oilers.
Not a great look for the Edmonton Oilers, and it's not a great look for the National Hockey League. And the Bowman family, hockey royalty. But that guy, that specific Bowman, he has definitely tarnished his own name.
I'll try to I want to come at this a little bit differently, like because I did hear a lot of like the opposing view, like second chance and whatnot. And look, from the sounds of it, he was doing stuff to like he was doing programs and whatnot, and supposedly he talked to Kyle Beach, and um, I was listening to the last episode of the Steve Dangle podcast. They went pretty in depth into it, and Steve did a good job kind of talking about how even when the whole thing was going down, it seemed like he was doing some stuff behind the scenes at the time before he resigned. Um, at the same time, and while that's great, why, why GM and why in the NHL? Like, this is his first job since getting fired. He's the
Eh,
GM of Connor McDavid.
it's crazy to think about, right? Give me Kenny money back. We need Kenny money back.
Like there's been a lot of people that have come to his defense and saying that he's been doing a lot of stuff off the ice, and it's not that I don't believe that. It's just,
It still
dude,
it still seems
it's
too soon.
dude, it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Like, it's way too soon, man.
There should have been like a some sort of stepping stone in
Like
between there.
no, like hire him as a scout or like an advisor.
This is like a situation where like a player has a bad rap and they go to the KHL and then they come back. Maybe he had to go serve a tour in Russia or something. I don't know, but going right into the head of the organization basically is they don't have a president of hockey
Well,
ops, do
Jeff
they?
Jackson. Well, that's Jeff Jackson.
Oh, yeah, Jeff Jackson. Um, yeah, I don't
And
know,
you know
man.
the funniest part about all of
It
this?
makes me feel it's gross.
Do you want to know?
It's not right.
Do you want to know the funniest part of that about all this?
What?
Like, this is not Joe Quenville. He's not a good GM. He waltzed into a Chicago dynasty that was already built for him, and then he tore it down. Like the Panarin trade, awful. The
Oh,
Table Terror
terrible.
Vinen trade, awful.
Teravina was on that team. I didn't even
Yes,
know
he
that. I
won.
thought
He was on the. I think he was on the 15 roster, and they traded him
really?
away for. Was that the? No, what? Who was? Hmm, I forget his name. I'll have to look it up.
That's crazy because I thought he was a Carolina Hurricanes draft pick. I
No,
just remember seeing him the first time I saw Tivu Teravainen was when the Hurricanes were playing and they were playing in the Hartford Whalers jerseys. That's the first time I remember seeing that guy. So it was probably pretty recent, maybe like a few years ago, maybe like around COVID times, but
Yep. So that's
or
what
a
it was.
little after that.
So the Blackhawks traded him in 2016 to get rid of the Brian Bickle contract. So all they got were 2 second round picks. So they
Brian
got
Bickle
basically
contract.
they basically got nothing out of Teravainen.
Didn't they also give like Dave Bolin like an astronomical amount of money?
Hmm. And
That's
then
another bad decision.
honestly, I think the Panarin one. I mean, yeah, people laugh at that. He wasn't the Panarin he is now. He was still very good at the time. Um,
Hmm.
I feel like I remember there being doubts he was going to sign there long term, although I could be misremembering. But his worst trade was the Seth Jones trade. Like, that
Oh
was him.
yeah.
That was Stan. That was Bowman. Uh,
Who let this man cook?
I mean,
Get him out of the kitchen.
I'm trying to remember the exact return.
It seems like he's constructing a Drysdale contract right now. Isn't Drysdale signing for like 8 years
Yeah,
at like 12 million or something?
it sounds like they're going to get that done. But I mean, I'm sure Jackson has been a bigger part of those negotiations, and I don't know. It's funny. It's kind of like the Blackhawks. Like, he walked in there In 2010, Kane was there, Taves was there. They had Bufflin, they had Seabrook, Keith, all of them. And he did his job. They won 3 cups. They were pretty close to they were a modern NHL dynasty. And here he is now. He gets to be the GM for the greatest player, arguably, to ever live, and another probable, arguable top 5 player in the sport.
It seems like this could I feel like this could be really bad vibes for the Oilers. And I know they
I
got
mean,
off to a bad start last year.
it's just a bad look. I mean, if
It's like
anything,
bad
they should
juju,
have
man.
just. I mean, Jeff Jackson. I don't know if you saw. He went private on Twitter before he announced the news. So like he knew this was coming.
He put the wall up before he knew, before he announced the news. That's hilarious.
I think at that point he should have just done what who's the new GM in Ottawa? Michael Anlauer brought in Steve Staios. I'm pretty sure he was like Staios was just supposed to conduct the GM search, and then he just named himself or he got named GM. I think if Jeff Jackson would have just done that and had Bowman as like an advisor, like it still wouldn't be a great look, but at least he's not the general manager.
He
And
just named himself GM.
I think they just did a search, and I think Ann Lauer just came to the conclusion Staios was the better guy.
Just
Remember
looking around the room.
there were rumors like
He was
Peter
like,
Chiarelli was one of the candidates.
"Oh, Peter Chiarelli." That would have been the funniest ending. But he was
Yeah,
probably just, looking around the room and then he's just like, "The best GM has been in front of me this entire time.
as he's
It's
standing in front of
me.
a mirror.
It's you." Just pointing at himself in the mirror.
I think, I mean, if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan, I feel like you almost would have rather rehired Peter Chiarelli because it's just it's
Well,
such
I
a
don't know if you go
more
that far.
dude. I mean, but like what? I guess at what point do you put the health and safety of your hockey team over like an ethical dilemma? But
True.
I don't know. Like if the Sabres hired Stan Bowman, like how would you feel?
Oh man. I like I said, I feel the same way I feel now. I feel it feels gross. It just does. It doesn't feel like it's been enough time. Isn't this the guy who gave Brad Aldrich a recommendation
I
after he
did
left the
I
organization?
did see that sort of shot down. That I don't think it was ever. I don't think it ever was confirmed. There was a direct letter of recommendation, and I think it was shot down. I could be wrong. The letter of recommendation thing might not be true, but they still knew. And this
Yeah, oh
guy
yeah, all of them
and the
knew.
guy still went on to work with children. He went to a high school,
That's the most messed up part of it.
and this stuff still happened. Um, and I think this is not. I don't know all the ins and outs of the case, but I think there was someone in the Blackhawks organization back in 2010. When they had these internal meetings that were like, he was like, go play hockey. I'll deal with this, and then it was just never dealt with. And apparently there was. I totally missed this. There was another player that came forward last winter on the Blackhawks, but
Really?
they signed an NDA, so we'll never know. And he
Jesus.
also, I guess, he made an unwanted advance on a Blackhawks intern at the time. Like it's just disgusting. It's
Did that
disgusting.
did that scumbag spend any time in jail or prison?
I don't think he ever. I don't think
That's
he ever did.
that is the most messed up part of the entire thing. They should throw his ass under the jail.
It's just
Just, ugh,
it's an uncomfortable. It's
sickening.
just an awful situation, and it just makes you feel weird seeing someone who had someone who had direct knowledge of what was going on.
Yeah.
Seeing their punishment be less than 2 years. It just gives you a bunch of uneasy feelings, and I'm not looking forward to this fall when the first NHL head coach is fired, and
Yeah.
we'll start hearing about Joe Quenneville being the next guy.
Could you imagine just being that much of a low life to be doing stuff like that?
No,
I mean, I'm not even gonna get into it, but it's just it makes my stomach turn, and it's just I I got choice words for people like that, and I'm just gonna keep them off this podcast because it's it's disgusting.